grocery stores, the churches, information. So we're developing articles, we're developing parent packages. Tomorrow night there's going to be a trifold that we'll be able to mail out, we'll give out to parents, we'll give out to schools to put in their PTA packages or send them home in backpacks. These are things you can do. This is the big thing that DC said they want to do in the next 22 years. This is what Maryland said they're going to do, the big thing. This is what Virginia said is going to be the big thing.
Yeah.
And we're kind of trying to get the word out to everybody to make sure that it's not a matter of it takes a village and I'm going to depend on the elders to raise mine. You're a part of the village.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so just in terms of, African American students and their, how would you gauge, what areas are the most challenging at this time? If you can.
So in the classroom, one of the biggest problems is kids aren't seeing books enough that reflect them. There's some in there, but they may either be too challenging or not challenging enough, or they may be books with a black face with a white
storyline or something.
Right.
They can't relate to
it's
it.
Dick and Jane with just Sally and Bob.
Gotcha.
But it's still the same storyline. And I know in my neighborhood, there are parents that are single parents, they're 2-parent homes, they're parents where the grandparents are raising kids. But the bottom line is there's somebody in every family that cares. And if we can get one of them to come, just one, we'll make a difference. Because one drop of water will make the river flow.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, so I think this is very important for parents, not just parents, but concerned community people, leaders of all persuasions, whatever your background is. Everyone should take a firm interest in this conversation. So I know you've worked tremendously on this, and I feel your passion.
And I want to say it's free.
Yes, it's
so
free.
It is free.
Yes.
From 6 o'clock we start a reception. From 6 to 9 o'clock it is free, and we know it's dinner time, so we're going to have very heavy hors d'oeuvres. I'm talking about a carving station, roast beef and turkey, and so we're going to feed you. So we're going to feed you. We're going to have some music, and then we're going to go and talk serious.
Wonderful.
About education and what we can do to make sure all of our kids get a better education.
I have several friends, sorority sisters who are in education, and I listen to some of their complaints about a lack of involvement.
Parental?
Parental involvement. I mean, I have one of my sorority sisters, she spends her own money to decorate her classroom. And she has engaged many of us to come in and
so you're
assist.
saying about equal funding?
Equal funding, but it's they just don't have enough money. She's a DC public school teacher,
and I taught at UDC for 10 years to support my teaching habits in DC public schools. So all of my check from UDC went to the classroom. In some other DC schools, the teachers didn't spend the money because the PTA took up collections and gave them a check to spend the money. I never taught in an affluent neighborhood, so I understood my parents didn't have, but I didn't let my kids not have that. I taught because their parents didn't have. So I just say this is my value. I have never not been an educator. I entered kindergarten knowing I was going to be a teacher. And so the fact that my mother was a teacher and my oldest sister became a teacher, it was my kindergarten teacher, Miss Carter, Cosette Carter, who made me decide I was going to be a teacher in kindergarten. And so my passion never waned. And my desire never left me. But the kids in front of me always needed me to go a little bit further. I was in a meeting the other day and somebody talked about, well, kids are being asked to bring in their school supplies. Well, when I started school, you all brought in your school supplies. The
Yeah,
teachers,
right.
the teachers didn't provide it, but we've taken on so many roles that now parents expect us to take on that role. So when the schools don't provide pencils and paper and notebooks and glue and tape and scissors and
What
rulers.
happened to the list? What happened to the list that they used to have?
So the thing is, we've done so much to compensate that now they expect of it. You know, it's like training the dog. If you don't want the dog on the furniture, you don't let them on the furniture the first time. And we've kind of trained them to expect us to provide everything for them. They may not have realized that all the funds were coming out the teachers' pockets. I taught during the time where they weren't teaching phonics. And being a literacy background, I knew the relevance and the importance of teaching phonics in my classroom. I spent my money to buy the phonics workbooks for every child in my classroom for years. And so every year I knew I was going to have $150 to a $200 bill just on the phonics workbook for my students, because every student got one and it was theirs to take home with them. So I didn't ask the parents to send me $12, $50 to $15 for their workbook. The school wasn't going to give it to me. I wanted it because they needed it. And so we're at the point now that parents have a right to have a voice to say, this is what we think money should be spent on now in schools. So we can take some of the weight off the teachers and some of the weight off the parents. And the great thing about the Every Student Succeeds Act is the federal government has been stepping back now, and the local government and the state government and the school district itself gets to say, this is how we're spending our money. And so now this is really why parents need to have their voices heard, because you want to make sure that they're spending the money the way you need it.
What about our special needs children? How are we addressing that?
So our special needs children generally have been getting more because of court cases than our students who weren't special needs. And so they're still covered under the Every Student Succeeds Act. They will still get more because they need more. But there's kids who are not qualified for special ed who still need a lot. You know, if you're dyslexic, it technically is not a special ed issue. But if your teacher doesn't know how to teach you to compensate for your reversal of letters and reversal of numbers, you will find out that you get frustrated easily and soon withdraw from learning. But if they were identified as special needs, then the funds would be there for somebody who really is trained to teach them how to compensate for it. And I have known of people who were special needs who got master's and doctorate degrees because they had the appropriate training so they could compensate for it. So I'm not concerned that they still won't get their fair share. Yeah, it's the kids who didn't qualify.
Well, let's go to a quick break, and we're going to come back on the other side and make sure we get most of the quality questions that Dr. Primas would like to have answered. All right. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna. All right.
Well, let me go back to the special needs children. My sister taught at Sharp Health School for many years. She was actually a teacher's assistant, and I remember her coming home and telling us about, you know, the students and some of the conditions of the classrooms and the children not having enough supplies, because a lot of these children were, you know, wheelchair bound. They were in Pampers and things like that, and they couldn't speak, a lot of them. And so I've always had a soft spot for children like that, because I think sometimes they're the forgotten, they're the left behind. And I know that there are programs that are specifically for them, but a lot of times I don't know if those dollars are really going towards those programs.
So part of that, Sharp Health School was around a lot of years.
Yes,
and
it was
not retooled appropriately in a timely manner.
Okay.
I'm not even sure if it's still open. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
And the other thing is DC, because of lawsuits, wound up sending most of their special needs kids to private facilities because they did not have the ability to meet their needs. But what that did, it sucked the funds out of all schools because they were sued and had to. So I knew a parent who moved into DC for 1 month. had her doctor, because she had a special needs child, declare her child special needs. And DC, by law, was required to pay for that child's education until he reached 23 years of age. The parent lived in the apartment, never, but had a resident in DC for 1 month and went back to her home. But DC had the strictest laws for providing for special needs. So some of those things have been addressed now. But the problem was the funds were taken from the regular classroom as opposed to more funds gotten so that every child was covered. And that's part of the reason why many of our kids went with no materials in the school, went with fewer teachers than they should have had, went with classrooms not being retooled in a timely manner. And so we find now that it's more equity going to be there based on this law alone. My key problem now is, are we going to have the law funded to the level that it was supposed to be funded to when Barack Obama and Congress approved it? And that's what I'm looking at, whether the Department of Education and this current administration puts the funding into the law to make it feasible, viable, and succeedable.
Okay, beautiful. All right, well, we're going to go to a quick break and we're going to come back and I'm going to inquire about this charter school movement and questions in those regards. So we'll be right back in 2 minutes.
You guys can tune into Eli's Media.
All right. Any other particular questions?
Yes, Dr. Seuss here.
So like the one I go
NNPA board
across
member, and we're talking about education and the school system. So if you guys, if you want to
I want to take a
go
break
to
and make sure we
EliMedia.net.
know what we're hitting on.
Broadcast live.
You want to talk a little bit more about the whole NNPA conference?
Oh,
or
I
just
definitely want to end the conference.
Okay.
Thank you guys for joining in. Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Michael.
Yay.
James McElwain. How are
Anything
you?
else you got going on? Or just this for right now? Yeah, just trying to make sure that we're covering everything. But yeah, I got a question about the charter school.
Okay.
So there is a meeting tomorrow from 6 to 9 o'clock p.m. And that's going to be at the Gaylord. This is the
Yes, everybody, check it out. Check it out tomorrow at the Gaylord. 6 p.m. to 9. A reception at 6 p.m. to 7, and then the National Town Hall meeting. National Town Hall meeting, Black Parent Town Hall meeting on educational excellence. And that's at the Gaylord, lower atrium level. That's, you don't know where the Gaylord at, just look it up and you can come on through, and it's free. Hillary Shelton, I'm gonna ask about him. He was on that panel. Dr. Marietta English out of Baltimore. She served several years in Baltimore, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. Lynn Jennings. Yeah, and we'll talk about these different people and let you kind of give a little brief about all of them as well. So, yeah.
We're on with Dr. Elizabeth Primas, NNPA, ESSA, Program Manager. Present.
We good? All right. All right. Holla at the Success Gala. I am the successor of Scholar Hakeem. Here. And so I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on this wonderful panel, town hall discussion that's going to be going on, of which Dr. Primas will be moderating. All right. So you're moderating this discussion.
I'm gonna try to keep it lively and keep it moving.
All right, great. We have one of the facilitators is DJ Easy Street of WKYS Radio. So he's a DJ, right?
He's a DJ. He's gonna start our reception. Little conversation, music while food is being served.
Nice. Beautiful. And Mr. Hillary Shelton.
Yes.
Director NAACP, Washington Bureau. And so you've been knowing him for some time, or?
I actually met him for the first time but I knew of him
Right.
in
Yes,
March,
yes.
and he was my keynote speaker in March when we did a parent breakfast.
Okay.
Oh,
And he was so great in setting the mood and tempo and the background knowledge around the ESSA law that we asked him to come back again.
Okay.
And so he's one that I look forward to speaking. He's a very lively speaker and very much knowledgeable.
Right. Beautiful, beautiful. And one who I've known for some years, Dr. Marietta English. She used to be the Baltimore BTU president of Baltimore for quite some time. And now she's the national president of the National Alliance of Black School Educators. So she's a panelist as well. And they have a conference too that I went to in the DC area.
And that's Dr. Tia Hill.
Dr. Tia Hill, okay.
And she's the CEO of Fighting for Lives. She's a psychologist, school psychologist. And so she has a private practice and works with schools with children who are troubled, part of their special needs. And she works with them. So she's going to be focusing specifically on the special ed. And Dr. Lynn Jennings is with Education Trust.
I saw his name.
Yes, she is phenomenal with education. She's been working in the field for as long as I have. I don't want to give
excited.
I don't want to give her age away. And then our final panelist is Chris Stewart. Chris Stewart works with Citizens Education, and he is the CEO and founder of Wayfinder Foundation, which is an education program just starting up. And so he's going to be one of our speakers, but he's had a lengthy background in education with Citizens Education.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. A lot of awesome panelists, everyone. We watched several, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, there was a town hall with Roland Martin. Were you there? I think it was at Howard, right? Yeah. Okay.
I was not there.
But you saw it,
I did not get a chance. I did not know about it. Otherwise, I'd have been there.
Yes, I'm sure. Right. Yes. But I know Hillary, Mr. Shelton was present, and now I can't recall if it. Matter of fact, it was based upon the charter school question versus the public, school. So people came and they were on different aspects of the question. So where are we going?
So let me just say that I started my teaching in DC public schools and worked for them for 33 years. I worked for Friendship Foundation and Friendship Public Charter School for 4 years cumulatively. 3 years with the public charter school in DC and 1 year with the foundation. I find that my problem is not whether it's charter or public, is whether you're teaching my children, period. Understand that the charter schools are public schools.
Right.
They now in DC have to follow the same guidelines as the public schools as far as qualifications of teachers, assessments, the standards that they have to follow. So it's only a matter of what your school name is. Now, that's not always been the case, and that's not the case every place I've been. So some places, there have been charter schools that have been knocking it out the park.
Right.
And the kids have been going to the charter school because they were offering a better environment, because they had private funding. They were able to do one-to-one computers with technology. Kids got to take them home. Some charter schools, the kids got to keep them for life. So it wasn't just a computer that you had when you got it when you entered a certain grade, like 4th grade. And then when you graduated from that school, you took it with you. Some charter schools, when you entered high school, you got a laptop and you took it with you. You took it right on to college with you. So I don't have a problem whether it's public or charter, because they're both public schools. My problem is I want my neighborhood school to be the high quality school, regardless of what neighborhood I'm in. I don't care too much whether it's a charter school or a public school. I want it to be that I can walk into the door because I live a block away, and I can expect a quality education. I can expect teachers who are there who care about my children. I want to make sure that the teachers are high quality teachers
Right.
that are teaching in their field. You know, when I went to Charles Young, and this was many, many years ago, every one of my teachers was teaching in their field. We changed classes in 3rd grade. So the science teacher had a background in science.
Absolutely.
The social studies teacher had a background in social studies. I learned Russian in 3rd grade. I learned instrumental music. I played the violin and the piano starting in 3rd grade. I want a well-rounded curriculum for all of our kids. I don't care what school offers it. I want every school to offer it.
I just heard something recently. I think it was it Spingarn?
Spingarn,
Where all the graduating seniors have been.
No, Spingarn is closed.
What school was it? One of the high schools in DC. All the graduating seniors have been accepted into college. And you said Spingarn is closed.
Coolidge or Cardozo, for some reason, I think it was one of those schools.
I don't think it was Cardozo.
So this was a DC public
It
school,
was a DC public.
Friendship Public Charter School, since I worked there. Collegiate, historically, all of their kids to graduate must have been accepted into college.
Oh, wow.
And now the principal who was instrumental in moving Friendship Collegiate forward is now the principal of Friendship Tech Prep. And so she's instituting the same rules that to graduate, you must have been accepted into at least one college. Otherwise, you're not graduating. You have not met the graduation requirements. But there was one DC public schools that they did, and I'm sorry that I just can't remember.
And I saw that, and I was just amazed because I was like, I had never seen or heard
and it
of
might
that
have been
before.
Ballou. Now that I'm thinking,
I think it was Ballou High School.
Now that I'm thinking about it, it might have been Ballou
because they said it was historical for the whole city. It's never happened before.
So we're
for you Ballou people, congratulations.
So this is not that it never happened before. Those who don't know their history tend to repeat. But at one time, all of DC graduates were accepted to college. So when I came out, there was no such thing as you weren't going to college. And so we're just starting to catch up with where we were, because we've had so many people come in who did not know our history and did not realize. So when you're writing an article about us who said, this is historical, this never, it did. Do some research, go back, go back 50 years. I've had my 50th high school class.
I'm taking that back to Ballou people.
No, but Ballou hasn't done it in a long time. And Ballou did it against all odds. Because that's one of the schools that had a high turnover of teachers, and they still succeeded. So in spite of, so I applaud Ballou and all of the schools that are moving towards 100% graduation and 100% admittance to college. And there's one group that has been funding schools, high school seniors with scholarships, and I don't have their name with me, but I'm gonna give a shout out to the CEO, Herb Tillery, who's put his Herb Tillery, whose organization has put millions into scholarships for students. And so he's not gonna, he just sent me a text message before we came on the air to say he's not gonna be able to make it tomorrow because he's doing something with students. And I understand that, but he's done tremendous to make sure kids got to college.
Thank you, Mr. Tillery.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Beautiful. All right. So before we get to talk about the rest of the conference, I have one question in terms of getting Black males into the classrooms. What would you say how DC is looking, and statewide or nationally?
Nationally, Black males do not go into education. One thing is, I recognize that we were not paying enough for them to go to college and then go into a low-paying job with a group of children who may or may not be on grade level, who may or may not have self-motivating issues, who may or may not want to or don't know the value of education. And that's something that starts in the home, valuing education. You know, I've heard of people say, you know, I'm a first generation college graduate. So if you became a first generation, somebody was saying, you're going to do better than I did.
Absolutely.
You must do better than I did. And so we need to make sure that Black males, even if you give us a couple of years, call it your charity work. Our Black children need you, both the girls and the men. Usually the black males stay in the classroom a few years and then they're promoted up as principals. And so we have more black male principals than we have black female principals, especially in the high schools. So we really need to make sure that our black males are paid, as well as our females are paid enough to stay in the classroom. Because yeah, I moved up, but I put almost 30 years in before I transitioned to an administrative position, because I knew where I was needed. That's, you know, and I'm never going to be a black male, but I know the value of having. I've been in schools where there were no black males at all in the building other than the security guard. And I don't want my black boys to see that's the only thing, somebody there to keep you in your place. I want them to see motivated teachers who are engaged, who are black males.
Yes. In terms of the STEM education in the district of, in the DC public schools, how is this panel going to address some of that? What would you think?
So our panel is not going to pick apart educational components like STEM, which is the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I like to call it STREAM, with reading in there and the arts, because I want a well-rounded curriculum. But we're really going to talk about if parents want STEM, and most schools are moving into STEM anyway, because that's where more money is, and private industry is putting money into STEM education and actually bringing people in to teach engineering and science and technology. So what I want is to make sure that every child has been given a well-rounded education, because I may not be interested in science, but I have a sister who's a mathematician, and I have a brother who's an engineer. I have another brother who's a doctor. They were given a well-rounded education so they could find out where they fit. And so that's what I want for every child. Enough of a background, a variety at the menu table to say, this is what I really like, and I'm gonna take more of these, instead of bombarding me with things that I don't want.
You know, I grew up in DC. We had already talked about that. I was educated through the DC public school system. And I knew in elementary school I wanted to be a scientist. So I knew that, and I'm a scientist now, and I actually work in my field and own a consulting company in which I advise people on scientific disciplines and operations. So for me, you know, I was very fortunate. I attended Lucretia Mott Elementary School.
And two or three of my siblings went to Mott.
Oh my gosh. And I went to Garnet Patterson Junior High School, and I had an awesome teacher, science teacher, Miss Goodnight. I still remember her name, and she introduced us to dissection. And it was just interesting. I mean, maybe we shouldn't talk about that.
And that's why I didn't go into science, because when I took biology, I had pets, and I couldn't bring myself to dissecting. So I knew I was in, but I do have a baby who's at Howard Med School. So
And then, you know, at McKinley, you know, I had Mr. Hank Saunders, who was my science teacher at McKinley, who was just encouraging and pushing. So there are teachers, you're right, who see the value of educating our children. And I was very fortunate that we had Black men in our school system that we could look up to, we could talk to. They were role models. And like you said, we're losing that now, the gap. And I don't know where it actually happened, where we fell off.
It fell off when jobs opened up that paid more money. And being a head of household, they had to go where the money was to support their family. And so I understand that. And that's why I said we've got to pay teachers what they're worth. If I was in Japan, I could make almost $2 million extra a year tutoring. Tutoring. And so we need to value education here, like other countries value education. And you keep asking, why are we so far on the totem pole? We don't value education. Or the educators.
You answered one of my questions. Actually, that was going. I was going to talk about international competition. And so, in closing, we have a couple minutes here. So this is a kickoff, actually, and this is beautiful that you kicked off this forum town hall panel discussion. But NNPA is going to have their 190th.
We are celebrating 190 years of Black press.
Right.
And I'm just so proud to be a part of it and honored that they selected me when they got this grant, because they were told you need an educator on there. And I thought I was retired. I told my husband I'm retired, right? I had just sat down for a minute and said, I think I'm retired now. And I think it was about 2 weeks. and the phone rang. It was like the full story. The doorbell rang. The phone rang, and it was like, can you come in and talk to us? I'm like, sure. And I went in to talk to Dr. Chavis and Denise Rolock Bonds, and they said, we need you to go upstairs to our offices and fill out some forms. And I'm like, I'm just talking.
I just came in for a little chat.
and they hired me, and so I'm just proud to be a part of the family. And the information that I'm learning, in March they did an installment of a famous Black publisher. As they pass on the installment, it's at Howard University, and I went there, and the lady whose mother was being enshrined had done a booklet of all the people who had been enshrined in the library at Howard University of Black press. And I saw a picture and I said, wait a minute, that's one of my ancestors. And so it was like, I have history with Black press. And I was like, this is back during the time, right after slavery. And he started a newspaper with Frederick Douglass. And I never knew that about the history of Martin Delaney, one of my relatives. And it was like, oh, and so something made me be here to serve in this capacity, that I'm learning even more about myself. And I want everybody to come out to our National Black Parents Town Hall meeting, so we'll all learn more about ourselves and how we can help our children become better. And that's the whole point.
Oh, great. All right. So you have anything else? Sylvia?
I mean, I think this is, it's going to be an amazing event. Not just this meeting, but I think the NNPA conference is going to be excellent. Haki, you're actually attending.
Yes, I'm attending.
He has been talking about this for almost 2 months now. I mean, I'm like, Haki, the conference is a couple of months away. So excited about this conference.
And trust me, everybody I know is excited as well. My youngest daughter, who lives in Florida, flew in to participate. She said, Mommy, you're doing a National Black, I've got to come. And so she flew in, actually she drove in. She got in Sunday night in order to attend VAR. So I'm looking for, I haven't even seen her yet. So I'm just anxious that everybody comes in and supports our children, because that's what it's about.
Wow. Now, is any of this being broadcast?
I'm so glad you asked, because I told you this is going to be live streamed, and you can go to our website, www.nnpa.org/ESSA, and it will be live streamed, or you can hit us up on Facebook. It should be up there too, at #NNPA ESSA, as well as our Twitter board is #NNPA ESSA, and then just join in the conversation, because we will have a Twitter board going live. So if you have questions and couldn't make it, you can Twitter in your questions, and we will be answering questions from the Twitter board, both from the floor and from the Twitter board. So there are lots of ways to get engaged, and I'm so glad you asked about the live streaming. And it will be recorded, and then it will be viewable later on. So if you didn't see it because you were just out partying someplace instead of with us, you can go back to our same website, www.nnpa.org/ESSA, and see it as it's from the live streaming broadcast again.
One question for tomorrow's town hall: will children be able to attend?
So children can attend. I don't want to turn anybody away, because some of them have some of the best questions, because they're in it. They're in it. So I say, bring everybody you know. Now, if you have not registered, we will have on-site registration for the town hall meeting. Right. So that kind of gives us a count as to how many people. So we don't want to run out of food for anybody. So if you haven't registered, again, at our website, www.nnpa.org/ESSA, go to events, and you can register for it. But if you don't do that, you can still walk in and we will register you on the spot. So we will have registration starting around 3 o'clock and it will go until you leave for the evening.
All right. All right. Sounds good. All right. So I think we got everything out there. I'm looking forward to these next couple of days. It's going to be an awesome experience at the Gaylord, everybody. So at the Gaylord, the atrium, lower atrium. Just look for all the us down there. So
So let me just say that
coming.
if you park in the parking lot where it's self-parking and come straight across, we're right inside the door almost.
Convenience.
So convenient.
Yeah.
So park there, just walk straight across.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a couple of people bringing carloads. Bring a
Oh,
carload
nice,
of people,
nice.
share the cost of parking,
Right,
and just enjoy the whole evening.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, everybody. So we're gonna get out of here for this evening. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so
Primas.
much for having
Appreciate you.
me.
It's
Thank
been
you.
awesome,
Thank you.
awesome
Thank
experience.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Brother
much.
Roland. Brother Roland got his Rolling Grime Show event coming up Saturday, July 8th. July 8th at Black Box Theater, 4185 Indian Head Road. What's that time, Roland?
7 o'clock p.m.
All right, it's not on this one, but 7 o'clock p.m. Rolling Grime Show going live here, and I'll come back next week. I'll talk about my experience at the film festival. I was just at the film festival in Miami, so I had a good time. So we're out. Looking forward to next week. Till next week. Peace.
Bye.